Avalanche Podcast, live from Circa in Las Vegas, specifically the Legacy Club. Kale, I'm not going to lie to you. This shot is pretty sick. You did pretty good work on this shot. It's pretty cool. Look, awesome place to be. I'm super excited to do the show. Obviously, we got all four of us. A little bit later in the show, we have an interview with Chris MacFarland that you guys are going to listen to. But before we get into that, AJ, you weren't on the pod yesterday. Do you have any biggest takeaways from the game last night? Or I guess it was during the day, but...
I think it's really... Trent Miner was great. Sam Malinsky doesn't need to play another minute here in Vegas. He really doesn't need to do it anymore.
Yeah, fairly agree.
I thought Jason Polan was probably like my player of the game, the guy that is fighting for a meaningful job. Like Trent Miner needed to have the kind of day that he had, but he's not gonna surpass either Justus Annunen or Arvid Holm.
Sure.
So it's almost like, hey, it's great that he had that game and the steps that he's taken to improve his game are meaningful. But when you're fifth goalie on the depth chart, that's a
you are where you are at that point.
It's a long climb, yeah. So that's a challenge there. But I thought Poland made a real impact, and he did it in ways that were not just scoring. It's easy to look at a box score and say, oh, here are the guys who impacted the game. But I thought what Poland did is what Poland is going to have to do if he's going to be an NHL player. Finding other ways to impact the game, the physicality, the intelligence, maturity, two-way game, all those things that you want out of this is why they go and get college free agents, because they don't have to put them into a system and develop them for 2-3 years. They can get quicker turnarounds and get potentially a quick return or a quick NHL debut on a guy like Jason Polan. So I really liked him. I thought the guy that opened my eyes the most was the guy that I walked in with absolutely no opinion whatsoever on, because I'd never seen Maros Jedlika play before. And just the competitiveness, the drive, the hunger. I think that stands out at something like this, because I think it's really easy. All these guys have been the man on their teams their whole lives, and now they're fighting they're not the man anymore in this setting. They're fighting for opportunity to get to show themselves, opportunity to prove that they belong, that they deserve a contract. A lot of invites here. He was a 7th round pick. Nobody knows anything about him. And so he walks in with a blank slate, but also he was drafted, so he's already ahead of some of these cats, And he turns 21, European player, can come over at any time. And I think that the performance that he put on the ice yesterday was encouraging enough that you start to feel like, obviously, we always talk, don't make too much of this experience. But as a first live viewing, that's a really good first impression he left on the ice. As just a competitive player, works hard, and gets after it. And we need to see some puck skill, and there's a lot of elements to the game that we still need to get to see a little bit more of. And him being in main camp next week will be great. We'll get to see him against some NHL guys. But I thought that my first impression of him was very, very positive, with the caveat that there were big holes still in his game that we need to see more of. But yeah, very happy so far.
Love it. Jedlishko was one of my guys as well, so yeah, I'm all about it. We did also talk to a number of Avalanche staff, front office people today, beyond MacFarland, which those interviews will be coming out on YouTube over the course of the next couple days, I think. So keep an eye out for those. But in talking with them, I came across with this idea of, like, you start to understand, look, every single prospect is different. There's no one mold that any of them fit into. Sam Malinsky, as an older guy, maybe has a little bit of a faster path. Jedlishka at 20, yes, he's older for the draft, but it still has multiple years in front of him of developing into a player that will the Avs even end up signing a contract to. We don't know yet. When you look at an event like this, when you look at someone like a Poland going into some of those competitions for roster spots, whether that's with the Eagles or what have you, how important is it for these guys to make an impression at an event like this? Because this could be the only shot they get.
Yeah, it matters, you know?
Yep.
I mean, I don't think you can make contract decisions and stuff like they weren't
on one game.
They weren't going to turn around and change their mind on Jeremy Hansel. You know, they weren't going to do the right thing. You know, just off of last night, but it's about building a profile. You know, it's about building a body of work that, you know, when a front office sits down, and Eric, I'm sure you can speak to this, when a front office sits down to make those decisions, you can say, you know, somebody that's fighting for a guy will be able to say, well, look at this and this and this and that. You know, it's a body of work, and this is just part of that process. It might not be a very big part of it. It probably shouldn't be, but I do think that it's going to matter a little bit. It can be one of those things that nudges a guy ahead and maybe pulls a guy back a little bit more. So,
but you're right. There's steps, and that's why every player is different. The 18-year-old invite. I was talking to this morning one of the equipment managers from the Avs, and his best take on this is it's so great to see an 18-year-old kid that puts on an NHL jersey and he's an invite, and he's like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing in the world. And Malinsky is a little different, right? Because he's going there. It's more business-like for him. He has to dominate. He does dominate yesterday, so passes the first test. So there are steps that you got to take here. A guy like Walensky, a guy like Poland or whatever, they have to take steps here. Steinberg, Olofsson. Those are things that you have to do, but each step is important. But don't kid yourself. The guys that are pushing hard, you know, on the staff, you know, for them, yes, it is just a small sample. Yes, it's one game, but I told you so, right? You know what I mean? And they're in there and they're pushing for their guys, and it's normal. That's all right. That's what makes it healthy discussions. Mm-hmm. But of course, when you have the decision at the end of the day, whether it's C-Mac or, you know, Kevin McDonald or obviously Bedsy has something to say, it's you got to look back and say, oh, of course, this was only one game, but it's important. It's important that you fare well. It's important that first impression, you know, here you go, boom. That was your first impression of a player. It's the same thing for a staff or a coach or Bedsy that's watching there. You know, those guys, I mean, Bedsy, there's no pressure this week. You know, he's only there. It's like, you know, he's got a crazy 8-9 months coming up. Yep. Those guys are ready to go, but this is probably a few days where your guard is down. You're just watching, and you're just there to support those kids or those kids that are in their second or third camps. And it's important for them to see that the head coach is there. And I think that's why you see every team's head coach there at these tournaments. It's important to show that they're valued by, you know, the rest of the organization. So again, there's steps. I think some guys took some steps yesterday, and then, but yeah, don't kid yourself. There's some people on the staff that are like, see, I told you. Yeah, I mean, and it's always like that, and that's what makes it fun.
I think something this showcase has shown me is this sense that Colorado is leaning into the fact that they have an unconventional prospect pool. Winning cups comes at a cost, and sometimes that is the prospect pool, the depth, draft capital. And so we are looking at a group of prospects, even opposite Arizona. There is a stark contrast between who Arizona's top prospects are compared to Colorado. It is this mix in Colorado of players 23, 24, 25. But then there are players like a Jeremy Hansel who nearly misses the draft at 20. You know, he's losing that eligibility on the brink of it, and has a terrific year in juniors last year, gets that attention this last draft, and finally gets that opportunity, though being maybe a little bit on the older side for draft status. Then there are players like Fairbrother who come about through trade and are in this showcase as well. And so no matter how they got to Colorado's prospect pool, their paths are very different. There's the college free agent kids. And in looking at that, we talked about the healthy competition that exists among them. And I think it's an interesting part because I do think in some ways Malinsky and Hansel in theory have the same opportunity. It's just who can seize it even more so. And obviously Malinsky has the edge because he is the older player with 4 years of college experience under his belt. But it does seem like each player has equal opportunity to merge ahead of the other, no matter where they are in their hockey journey. And I think that's really interesting is Colorado is sort of turning the keys over to them to let them show who is most deserving of that opportunity.
And I do think that opportunity is very interesting at an event like this because Sean Behrens isn't here. Gulyayev isn't here. This, particularly on that defensive side, the Avs' higher-end prospects aren't here because they're playing in KHL, NCAA, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's an opportunity for a Malinsky, a Hansel to say, hey, they're not here. I'm here, and I'm ready.
I do actually really want to build on Megan's point here of it's an unconventional prospect pool and drawing the direct contrast between Colorado and Phoenix. Because you look at what Phoenix...
That stacked lineup they had.
Yeah, you look at what the Coyotes put on the ice last night. Those are guys that are they're hoping Dylan Guenther, who I didn't even notice, not one bit last night.
Not much.
Logan Cooley...
Who you noticed a lot last
Yeah, Doan and Geeky. They're hoping those guys are all part of the top 6 in the future.
Yep.
The guys that the Coyotes have in their prospect pool right now, they're hoping become their guys. Franchise guys that they can build around, become the future. Colorado doesn't need that. They're not looking for somebody to come in to play in their top 6 forward. Not one of these guys. Oscar Olausson, he's not profiling like that at this point in his career. And even the day he was drafted, we talked about him. Hey, if it works out to this, then it's gone very well. But that's where the Avs, their priorities are different, so their targets are different. They're not looking for a guy that might have the highest ceiling in the world, but he's got a really low floor. You look at it, and when the Avs trade away all these draft picks over the last handful of years and go a little more bare bones in that, they make up for it by going and hitting the college market really hard. They get in, and you look at it. Look at where their depth in their organization is right now. You have Sam Malinsky. You have Ben Myers. You have Jason Poland. You have Andre Pavel. Those are all guys that are going to be in the mix for NHL time this year. And they aren't guys that they drafted and developed. They were guys that they went into the college pool, signed them to contracts, and it's because the Avs are looking for cheap contracts to help fill out the bottom of their roster. Not the top. The top is set. Their best players are already among the best players in the sport. They don't need those guys. If they ended up with one of them, great. That's obviously great. But they aren't sitting at this event looking at Jason Poland going, well, maybe this guy can replace Landeskog for us, you know? That's not the conversation being had. It's more like maybe Jason Poland can replace Logan O'Connor when O'Connor gets to free agency in a year or two, you know? And maybe this guy can help us here, there, wherever. Their approach to it has been very different than the traditional organizations of we're going to draft, we're going to develop, and then maybe we'll sign a guy here or there. The Avs have never been all that aggressive in the free agent market in college until they needed to be. They looked around and they said, where can we have all these openings in the organization, where can we go and get young talent? Where can we go get young talent that we think can help the parts of the roster that are in flux every single year? Because every team turns over a couple guys in their lineup every year. You don't ever just bring it back. So that's where I think it was a great point from Megan that they have really leaned into it. They have embraced the challenge of where they are. They are spending top dollar on top players and trying to figure out the rest from there. They're trying to find answers with, Jonathan Drouin, Tomas Tatar. Great. Those are huge values. They need to continue to find guys like that every single year in free agency. But on the prospect side of things, they need the Sam Malinskys and Jason Polands of the world. If Sam Malinsky becomes an Avalanche regular for them, and they don't have to draft and spend 4 years waiting for him and all this, it's an enormous victory, and it's incredibly frustrating for the Dallas Stars of the world who are trying to close the gap, who are trying to stay competitive over the next 5 years with Colorado's elite players. And so I think that's the unconventional aspect of this. Their embracing of it is notable, as Megan mentioned. It's a great point, and one of the defining characteristics of this side of the organization right now.
Alongside it too, and seeing the late offseason grab of Evan Rodriguez last year and then Tomas Tatar this year, has it set a difficult to repeat standard for what the Avs are capable of pulling off, or does it affirm that they have an aptitude to doing this and could continue to doing this? Can they keep getting away with it?
All right, look.
Yes, they can.
If September 12th, 2024, they sign somebody, okay, twice is a coincidence, three times it's a pattern.
They might just be accounting for it at this point, too. Like, we just wait late enough in the offseason because their compete window for a Stanley Cup is right now with the talent they have at the top. They can talk guys into coming here in September for a couple seasons now, so long as the top of the lineup stays as amazing as it is in the McKinnons and the Rantanens.
Well, and I think it becomes even easier in the future. Say Jonathan Drouin has a good, solid year, goes out and gets a multi-year deal for a bunch of money somewhere else.
That's another guy in the back pocket. Yeah.
Tomas Tatar does the same thing. Then you're talking about, okay, this track record is starting to get long.
Yep.
Of guys over the last 5-6 years that have been able to come to Colorado, get a bigger role in an offense and in a system that is going to boost the numbers a little bit. They're going to have career years. It's not going to keep it down. It's not some of these more defensive teams where you might be a 25-point guy. You come to Colorado, you're pushing maybe 35, 40 points. That track record is meaningful because when it comes to repeating this, which is something they have to do every single year, they have to find guys that they extract contractual value out of. And in order to do that, having guys like this have success, it shows to other players. I can compete for a cup, I can put myself in a good position, and I can set myself up for future money as well. Because you look at the opposite of this. John Klingberg last year in Anaheim is a great example. He went where he was going to get every opportunity, all the playing time. Yeah, he did it on a team that sucked. And it didn't matter. It didn't get him paid this year. It didn't set him up for success in the offseason. It was a total disaster of a situation, and that was the more traditional route. Go play for a bad team, have high 1-year contract, and then try to recoup some of what he perceived as lost money that he did not get on a multi-year deal. In a situation like that, it didn't go very well.
Yep.
Evan Rodriguez comes to Colorado for $2 million, less than what he should have gotten last year. And now he's got a 4-year deal in Florida. He's got the kind of security John Klingberg wishes he had right now. Obviously different players, different situations, but that track record of Colorado being able to do that and being a destination for guys every single year, guys fall through the cracks in free agency, and Colorado just needs to continue to wait them out. They did a wonderful job of it last year, did a wonderful job of it this year. I feel even better about this year's version of it than I did last year.
Me too, honestly. The Avs have put themselves in a great position there. Did you know the largest private collector of bobbleheads lives in Las Vegas?
No.
Well, now you know. And I bet you they hit up Foco.com to get a handful of those bobbleheads. You can get your bobbleheads at Foco.com as well. Use the DNVR code when you head over there to get 10% off your order. They have more than just bobbleheads, too. Licensed apparel for all of the major sports teams in the country, basically. So go check it out, whether you're Avs fan, Nuggets fan, Broncos fan, CU fan. With their game going tonight, they got you covered when it comes to Foco.com. Tons of awesome stuff, like I mentioned. They have a bunch of cool knickknacks and stuff. I don't know what to categorize things like pins as, or Crocs. Crocs are apparel, I guess, but
accessories.
That's a good accessories. They have a lot of sports accessories. So get over there to Foco.com. Go check them out. Use the DNVR code when you order your bobbleheads.
Rudo, does the Prime bobblehead have the sunglasses and the hat?
They probably come with a separate loose pair that you can put on him.
That's an accessory.
Count it. Buy bobblehead sunglass accessories.
Yeah.
We're also brought to you by Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. You can get yours anywhere in the United States. Check breckbrew.com for the online beer locator to find it at a liquor store near you. It's Broncos country season when it comes to Breck Brew. Lately, and hopefully not this year, but it's not looking great, Broncos country has been a beer to drown your sorrows more than it has been one to celebrate. But you know what? It does the job. So go get it. Of course, you can always get their Avalanche Amber, which is my favorite. You can get tons of other types. Summer beers are going quick, though. You got to get your Palisade Peaches while you still can. It's almost fall, so get ready for the pumpkin spice stuff. It's coming. Again, check them out, breckbrew.com. Get your Breck Brew today. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. We're not going to make you wait any longer. We all know what you're here for. We have an interview with Chris MacFarland. Talked about a wide range of topics on it, so let's just roll it, Kale. Give him the beautiful bean footage.
Here we are, here with General Manager of the Colorado Avalanche, Chris MacFarland. Welcome, Chris. Thanks for joining us today.
AJ?
Oh, AJ.
You want me to start this?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, so I guess we'll just start with your approach to the offseason. You know, what did you see as your team's biggest shortcomings last year, and how do you feel you addressed them over the summer?
Well, that's a good question. I think the biggest area for us is obviously from rewinding to the end of 22 with some of the key losses we had. We knew with the tight cap that our depth was the biggest thing. And whether it was depth, you know, in the middle six forward group or just, you know, the overall depth of the group on both the forward and the back end, I think that was our biggest challenge is when we were leading into off-season mode as to how can we maximize cap dollars to try and extend our lineup.
So you think that, you know, the forward core, obviously, you guys addressed pretty heavily. Didn't do as much on the back end. Do you see that there's a little more work to do, or is this more of a Sam Malinsky where he comes in to try and help you?
I think it's a little bit of both, AJ, to be honest. I think it gives us the time to assess our group here in training camp, to see some of our kids as we move along, and then if we have to pivot, then we'll pivot if something obviously makes sense from an acquisition cost or cap and all that as we move towards the beginning of the regular season. But we're comfortable with where we're at with the back end right now.
You know, and the forward core looks pretty good right now. Where do you see Nikolai Kovalenko coming in and trying to help you out? Is it more this year or is that next year?
I think that chapter is yet to be written. I think we're very excited that we were able to get him signed. So I think over the next, call it 3-4 months, he's a guy that we're going to pay a lot of close attention to, whether it's, you know, our guys here on video, but our guys in Europe paying very close attention to him. I think, you know, the fact that he's on an entry-level deal and he can, you know, at the end of their season, he's coming over. You know, we'll do what's best for him, but we'll also know where we're at and, you know, kind of where would he fit in the lineup. So, you know, he's not 18 or 19. I think he's playing with men. You know, if he has a good solid year there, I think it's wide open for him to possibly be a contributor for us.
You know, I know that you guys don't usually make too much a comment on these, but I do want to ask, you know, Devon Toews is a free agent at the end of next season. Have you guys talked to him about an extension? Do you kind of know where each other stand? Is that something that you think might get done early?
We had a brief discussion with Devon's agent at the draft and in the early parts of the summer, and I think they have a good understanding of, you know, of our situation, the cap, and all that, and, you know, we'll continue to chat.
A big new addition to the forward group is Tomas Tatar, and I was curious how those conversations unfolded in bringing him to Colorado.
That's a good question, Megan. I think, you know, I'd be lying to you if I said he was a day one target, because he wasn't. You just don't go in on July 1 with a player that caliber and go, you know, do you want a 1-year deal, you know, with a number that, you know, is a lower number. I think as it moved along and as the summer, you know, it creeps into August, then you start to think, you know, is there a chance here, and you make an initial call and gauge the player's, first of all, his interest level potentially in Colorado. Does he see it as a fit? And you kind of have those discussions. And, you know, we chatted with Thomas, I'm going to say maybe 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago for sure. And I think the fit, you know, was described and player felt it was a good fit. And then it sort of drags into the financial component, right? And that was the last little piece that had to come together. And fortunately, last weekend we got a call and we were able to sort of make the framework of something. And Thomas got on we had a good phone call with head coach and myself and Thomas, and a couple of days later he said he wanted to be an Av. So we were very, very excited to be able to make that splash last weekend.
Was Wood able to help facilitate any of that?
That's a good question. We did talk to Miles, obviously, about Thomas more so as a person. I think we've got a really good feel from watching him play the last, you know, number of years. Know that what he brings, but talk to Miles briefly. You know, Arturi also knows Thomas very, very well from their time together in Montreal. So once everything came back together in terms of this is a good person and a guy that would fit in with our group, it was sort of slam dunked it for us in terms of trying to bring the player on.
And at the start of the offseason, you said the organization remains bullish on Sam Malinsky. Now there's a development camp under his belt. He came back early, got in some of those captain's practices with the pros. How has your opinion on him grown or changed now from that point?
It hasn't changed at all. You know, we spent a lot of time watching him the last number of years, and he was a guy that our scouts were very excited about last year. I think Sam's storyline here is going to be dictated. Have a good rookie camp, a good camp here in Vegas, and then let's get him with the big boys in Denver, and then the preseason games and the practices will be crucial for us to make an assessment over the next 3 weeks. As you know, is he ready to contribute and play a role here, or is he better suited to go and play 20 plus minutes a night right off the bat, you know, for X number of games with the Eagles? I think that's the question that we have to answer, and I couldn't answer that for you today. So, but we are excited to see him both here the next few days and then back home with the main camp.
What have the reports been on Justus Annunen and his development from Parkala and Peter Budaj?
Well, Justus, you know, he's two full years now. He's just a bit over 100 games. You know, I think, you know, 200 games is probably, for me, is the right marker for a young goalie. So his development has been good. I mean, he's played some really good games. He's had times where he's carried the mail. He's had a good partner there in Jonas Johansson the last number of years. And the one thing the Eagles had was quality goaltending every single night down there. I think with Justus, it's next year he needs waivers. So this is a massive year for him and his development in terms of, is he projecting to be a National Hockey League goaltender? We're excited to see him at camp. So we're going to, goaltending depth is something that it's important, and Justus is a big part of that for us.
And two players that had off-season procedures are Josh Manson and Pavel Francouz. Can you speak to the status and availability of those players looking at the start of the season?
We think Josh is going to be ready to roll right from day one of training camp. He had that procedure after the season last year. We'll know obviously more, you know, on the day of physicals, but he's skating with the guys, and you know, whether he gets in how many preseason games, I don't know. You know, I can't answer that at this point in time. Pavel Francouz has been banged up. He's flying in this week, and we'll have a better assessment for him once he gets here on, I think it's Tuesday.
And then going back to the goaltending then, and bringing a young goaltender like Arvid Holm and seeing Trent Miner in this showcase, what is sort of the vision for goaltending down the depth chart? Yeah,
that's, you know, Arvid Holm has been in Winnipeg's system for a bit. He's a big kid with a lot of raw athletic ability. So, you know, we expect him to come in and be part of that, you know, that Eagles tandem and continue the good goaltending that they've gotten down there. And Trent's trying to knock that door down as well to show that he should be one of the two guys with the Eagles. But, you know, that the challenge with that is you have one net, right? And you want to develop, you know, three goalies. So, you know, we've got a good situation with Utah, and you know, but Trent was really good yesterday. He gave our guys a chance to get back into that game by playing really well the first half of the game. So this is a big camp for him, and then off to Eagles.
I got a couple questions for you, Chris. First, surround yourself with great people, and I think you're mastering this. And I want people listening to understand. In addition, for example, last summer for me, I know him well, but the average fan probably doesn't know him. You know, Kevin McDonald. For me, it's a key addition last summer. I love it, the way you're surrounding yourself with people like that. What does a guy like Kevin bring to you in the sense of managing the whole situation?
That's a great question, Eric. You're only, you know, your staff is your guys in the field, the guys grinding, and Kevin's been. He won't like me saying this, but he's been around longer than I have been, and doing it a long time, you know, from back in New York, and then a long tenure in St. Louis. So, you know, with Craig Billington moving into front the goaltending piece, you know, having somebody that can do the day-to-day with the Eagles and Utah and build that, you know, those relationships with our coaches and keep Joe and myself informed on our prospects there. We like to get up there, obviously, too. But, Kevin's in the trenches with those guys, and he's got so much experience, being a pro scout and a manager at the minor league level for a long time. It was a really good hire for us.
Lastly, more on the personal side of things, your son Sawyer, just so people understand, I know his son really well. We have something in common. We've watched our dads reach the summit, lift the Stanley Cup. And I tell you one thing, it's an unbelievable feeling as a son. But on the flip side of things, I'm jealous. I've never done it with my kids, and I know you're doing it. Obviously, you did it with your kids and your wife. What was it like, that moment when you know all the sacrifices that have been done? It's an amazing feeling, I'm assuming, if you can just touch on that. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you had to hit me in the feels, Eric. Well, obviously, that was a dream come true. You know what it's like. You've experienced it, and your dad was an amazing guy, Avalanche legend, and going to the Hall. So kudos and congrats on that. Well deserved, and look forward to that day in November, big time. But my wife has been the rock of our family, and doing the grinding with the kids while we get to go out and do what we do on a daily basis and on the road a lot. And so to share that with them, they've been diehard Blue Jacket fans when I was in Columbus, and the second we came to Colorado, they're diehard Avs fans. So they live and die with it, and I think they got a grasp of how much that meant for me. But I think the cool part was seeing how much it meant to them, and how special that day is, and it's just something you can't really put into words. When it actually happens, it's like an out of body experience. I can't even describe it, but it was an amazing day, and we happened to win it on the night. It was my wife's 50th birthday in Tampa, so
I knew that
added a little bit of fun to the night. But it was really, really special for us. An amazing day.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about Toby Peterson.
Yep.
Sean Allard moves on from the organization. What is it in Toby Peterson that we can expect that he brings to the role that might fill some of those big shoes that Allard left? Yeah,
we're really excited about Toby. I think Toby comes at it from a little bit different. Sean was amazing for us. He's one of the best in the world at, skill development and skating and that aspect of it. And I think, Toby's a guy that played professionally. He had to grind for everything he got as a pro. He was a good college player and a good AHL player, and played some in the National League. But obviously Bedsy and Prater and myself have a previous history with Toby during our time together in Springfield, and then he went on and coached in Roch. But I think he brings the ability to hopefully connect with young guys, our young forwards, our young defensemen, both in terms of skills, applicable skills work, but specifically, from a coaching slant, whether it's, working with a young forward who's got to improve getting pucks out, or, gaps with defensemen, or those things. So I think he'll have a different lens that he looks through in terms of helping our young pros and going up the road to the Eagles and getting his touches with the Avs as well. So we're really excited about that ad.
I promise this will be the last one for me.
But looking
no
problem.
at main camp opening next week, what is the atmosphere that you want to see and feel from the players on the ice?
I don't worry about the feel of our group. They're very dialed in. They're very committed. They take care of themselves. There's no question on the conditioning levels or all that. So for me, I want to make sure that we're ready to go October 10th. The young guys, I'm excited to see some of the young guys that we've brought in, like Frederick Olofsson and Riley Tufte and Corey Schooneman and Jack Ashawn. I really want to see how those guys, Benny Myers, his development in terms of competing for roster spots and showing us where they're at. And so that's the part that I'm really looking forward to. And then obviously, just health. You want to be ready to go. Eric would know this. There's nothing worse than starting the year either banged up or with a player that you're counting on right off the bat. So we went through that last year. Our guys did a great job, but hopefully looking forward to seeing some of these young guys and then being ready to rock and roll October 10th.
Well, so thankful for your time, Chris. I mean, we really appreciate it. It means a ton to us, and good luck next week.
Well, no, and thank you for you guys. It's it's good that you guys come here and check out our rookies and see the future pipeline. I think it's an exciting time, for us. No Kovalenko, no Callum Ritchie, no Sean Behrens, no Gulyayev. So I think, our pipeline is starting to come, and this is a fun tournament. So thanks for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Christopher MacFarland. Chris MacFarland? Is his actual name Christopher? I don't even know. It might just be Chris.
It
Is it because
now.
he called you Nathan?
Yeah, I gotta get it back. GM of the Colorado Avalanche. Fantastic interview. We'll get into a lot more of that. But first, we are brought to you by Bet365. They don't do ordinary at Bet365. They believe every sport should be epic. Every touchdown, every game, every point, every play, all of the moments that are legendary from your sport, those should be the ones that matter. You can see for yourself when you sign up today, you'll get $365 in bonus bets. And that's when you just bet $1 on your account. Make sure you sign up with the DNVR 365 code because it's never ordinary at Bet365. And any way you go with it. You can take AJ's route of betting against the Rockies, although the Rockies game the other night was pretty wild, and you should have bet for them, I guess.
Last I saw, they were up 6-3 today. So.
Well, hey, there might be a good time to bet against them. Who knows with the Rockies? You can always bet on hockey futures right now. Avs pretty good to win. Obviously, I think the odds have actually come down, but for a while there, McKinnon to win the Hart was good money, to say the least.
They actually have had the Avs boosted to win the Stanley Cup at plus 1,000.
Yeah, that's right. So good options out there when it comes to the hockey futures. Go check them out at Bet365. Use the DNVR 365 code when you sign up to get those $365 in bonus bets. You must be 21 and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. We're also brought to you by the fantastic folks over at Volo. If betting on sports isn't your thing, what about playing sports? They're the largest social sports company in the country. They're right here in Vegas. They're right there in Denver. Either way you want to do it. I recommend Denver because, that's where we're from. So you can go to volosports.com/Denver to sign up today. You can still get into some of their fall leagues, or you can get the Volo Pass, which is $20 a month for unlimited drop-ins, pickup, and all of that stuff. You can just show up and play whatever sport you're feeling, kickball, volleyball. We were staring at a pickleball court earlier out in one of these gigantic windows behind us. So that's an option, too. Check them out. You can get $10 off when you check out at volosports.com/Denver with code DNVR. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Lot to cover with MacFarland there. Do you guys want to start with just kind of officially seeing that Josh Manson seems like he should be ready to go for the season, and then it's still kind of unclear on Pavel Francouz?
Yeah, it's meaningful with Manson being ready to go. We talked a lot about last year how the Avs had leaned into the strength of their team was their defense. Their third pairing was better than a lot of second pairings. That they never really got healthy enough for that to be true last season.
Yep.
In EJ's last year, you can kind of look at it right now and say with the injury issues of Manson over the last couple of years, Jack Johnson on your third pairing. Those are, that if that's the alignment they want to go with, Jack Johnson and Josh Manson together on your third pairing, like right now you don't feel great about it. You like both guys and you like what they can do. They've both had really good stretches in Colorado, but you are one injury away from Curtis McDermott, and you are two injuries away from a total unknown.
Brett Hunt. I know what you mean, though. You want a viable option there full time and not just a gap stop, which I think Brad Hunt serves that role very well. But you don't want that to be a long-term season solution.
And maybe that's where Sam Malinsky comes in. But at the NHL, and as excited as we are about him, the NHL level is just a question mark. You don't know. And teams that are competing for cups usually don't like uncertainty.
And that's why I like the Manson comment. If you're look at the makeup of a team, it's nothing different than the makeup of your D, right? Somewhere, somehow, I'm going to use like drinks, So there's a lot of wine drinkers, and if you have 6 wine drinkers, it doesn't really go well, And Manson is the whiskey drinker, right? He's the guy that's different, than the other ones, and he brings that element, and that's why I'm a big Zadara fan. I am. analytics will say that, he's not very good and all that stuff. But sometimes I think Calgary did a good job picking him up because he's different in what they had on their back end. So Manson is different. He brings that different element. So I think I think we all agree they missed that last playoffs, right? You know what I mean? A little bit on Josh Manson being back there. So I'm excited to have this guy back there this year.
Is this the part where Eric rips off the mask and it was Evan all along?
Yeah, right.
Evan also loves Zadorov.
Oh,
yes, he might not be in analytics.
Because he has to be a fit. He was, again, in Calgary, like he was a good fit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yes, I know. He makes bad plays and all of a sudden there's a turnover. And listen, I've watched the same games you guys watch, but when you're doing the makeup of a team, he brings something that's different than the others. And if everybody's the same, it's not good. If everybody's like Nathan McKinnon or, obviously somewhere, somehow, somebody's got to be missing some ice time. Because there's only 60 minutes in a game. But you got to be built a little differently. And I think that's why Josh Manson is valuable to the lineup. And he was valuable in the playoffs 2 years ago because he brings that difference than McCarr, Taves, Bo, all guys like that. He's a little bit different and he brings that size. And he was surely missed.
Is Josh Manson a guy? Is he a whiskey drinker? Or
no. I'm not saying he does drink
whiskey.
Is he
a guy that just chews the drink like the glass? He just eats through it.
No. We'll make sure that we'll clarify that. I'm not saying that they drink wine and they drink whiskey. I'm saying if you're comparing to drinks, you know what I mean? Like,
I got you.
Some wine
Kale
drinking,
McCarr's a
like
Slurpee.
Kale McCar's, like a nice fine wine, right? Exactly, it's a Slurpee. No, he's like a fine wine. He's just like he's an expensive wine, but just using terms, you know what I mean? Yes,
No,
let's be clear. I'm not saying he drinks whiskey. That's maybe he does, but I'm just comparing.
No, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I think the concern surrounding Josh Manson isn't unfounded just because he was rehabbing an injury throughout lots of last season, tried to come back twice. The first time, it just wasn't right. Second time, also wasn't right. Has this offseason procedure, presumably to correct this. And there's just an uncertainty then in where he's at in being game ready. And that's why it's encouraging that he's supposed to be good for camp, but he has been sheltered with some caution even in these last few weeks and getting out there more gradually. I don't think that's a bad approach given the offseason he's coming off of rehabbing even more, but I'm cautiously I don't know how to talk about Josh Manson. Like, I still feel very cautious about this. This hasn't really instilled a lot of confidence in me yet.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it wasn't a red flag. Like, I'm glad we didn't get some sort of red light news out of this either. So
it would be a lot more concerning if they were like, hey, Josh Manson isn't ready and we haven't done anything this offseason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Like, this is still good news. I'm very cautious, though, just in looking at the bottom of that decor, if he does have to miss some more time.
You definitely feel better about the Josh Manson news than the Pavel Francouz news.
Yeah.
Which we already knew was not super encouraging right now, but it's still a question mark. We don't know what kind of timeline he's working with, but you don't want to go into camp
not
having an answer to who your backup goaltender is going to be.
And that's why Manson, those preseason games
they're important for him.
Yeah,
right?
shake off the
like for
rust.
guys, it's just to get their hands back, their feeling back of the game. But Manson is to
Feel it
can
out.
I, play 60 minutes and feel good about it and not be like cautious and all that kind of stuff. So hey, those preseason games are meaningless at times, but they're for some guys they're important for that matter.
Yeah. Preseason, get hyped.
Meghan, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here. What was your favorite answer from MacFarland in that interview?
That's an interesting question.
Do you want time to think about it?
Yeah.
We talked about Tomas Tatar, and I liked how forthcoming he was about how that came to fruition in Colorado. I expected him to be a bit more withholding, and he shared that this isn't a guy that they necessarily had targeted from the start of free agency, and they intentionally waited it out, and then circumstances on either party's side just ended up sort of in the perfect place. And what I think is interesting is hearing just this small tidbit that affirms something that he talked about. I want to say he did like a trade deadline presser last year where he talked a lot about culture. And he talks about having spoken with Miles Wood and Arturi Lehkonen in getting the green light for bringing Tatar on board. And I like it because it's in step with what we've heard about how this room works and how MacFarland targets players, that there's a lot of input from the guys that are already in Colorado's lineup to decide if someone's going to be a good cultural fit. I've heard great things about Tatar as well, but knowing that that's still a priority in Chris MacFarland's eyes just affirms that this is a true behind-the-scenes thing that the organization prioritizes.
Teams don't win with bad culture.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has to be pulling on the rope in the same direction. And I think that was, when you look at where it's not that they weren't last year. It was just that there were different guys pulling on the rope every day.
No amount of culture can stop that many injuries.
Exactly. It was its own challenge. But I think, I thought that was also the most interesting answer to me, was that just the background, because, the Avs are one of the more analytically based organizations in hockey right now. The advanced modeling that they do, the analytics that they've gotten into, all of their in-house investments in that area are cutting edge around the NHL. They're excellent at it. That doesn't mean that they ignore the rest of the stuff. One of the consistent knocks on analytics is always, well, it can't measure heart. Of course it can't. That's why.
That's the point.
That's why you have conversations. It's why you have relationships. It's why when you're talking about Tomas Tatar, you talk to Miles Wood. You talk to Arturi Lehkonen. Guys that know him and say, especially Lehkonen, who was here when they won the Cup and knows what that room was like, and says, okay, is this guy going to fit into our culture? And if they sign off on it, then that's great. We talked a lot last trade deadline about Max Domi. And Max Domi maybe wasn't a guy that the locker room was going to be as excited about adding, and Max Domi doesn't land in Colorado. And you look at the guy that they did get in Lars Eller, great culture guy, a guy that is really, really well liked and respected around the league. Now, at some point, you need guys that can help your team. It'd be great if they could also play the role they were supposed to play.
That would help.
You're not decimated by injury as the Avs were last year, but I did think that that's interesting, because the background that goes into that, it's so much deeper than, oh, he's got good analytics, we're going to go get him. Because Tomas Tatar's analytics are spectacular.
Yep.
They're so far beyond good. They're spectacular. And he even said, we're very comfortable with who he is as a player. We know. We've seen him. We've watched his career. There's they have every number that they could possibly use. And the conversation still came down to character.
I think the other part of that is really interesting to me is when you're on the outside, I think a lot of the time people try to twist themselves into knots and convince that they're like, oh, they were after Tatar all along, and they're such geniuses for waiting, and it's like, it didn't really pan out like that. That's not reality.
Yeah. He slips through the cracks. Yeah. They get an opportunity.
The stars align.
Yeah. It came together. This is what happens when you save a little bit of money. You put yourself in a position where you can make a move like that. Apparently on September 12th every year.
Number of contracts, right?
Yep.
You don't want to be at the limit. You can't just add guys. You want to be able to fit within your 50, which is the number maximum allowed. So little things go into play,
One last thing I wanted to ask about this. Eric, you were talking to MacFarland about winning a Stanley Cup. As a GM of the team going forward, is that, hey, we won one, pressure's off, or is there pressure there to win the next one?
I think it's an easy answer is you want more.
Yeah.
I think winning it's addicting. I've talked about McKinnon before saying, I think you can see it. Back then, I'm using, again, old Avalanche teams, Joel, Peter, Patrick. Those guys were like, wow, we've tasted it, now we want more. And once you do that, I think McKinnon's got that in his eyes. I think Makar's got that in his eyes, right? Obviously, Gabe, but that's a different story. But I think Mikko, the leadership group, those guys you mean business when you come to Colorado. I think you're feeling it this year a little bit with the guys being there early. I think they want more, and it's nothing different in the front office. I think they know that they've done it. Now they want to do more, and I think it's just something that you keep going because you want to taste it more. I mean, you saw his eyes when he's talking about winning this. It's right away. Your eyes change. It's something that's special. It's something that you cherish for the rest. And it's cliche, right? You walk together the rest of your life, but it's true. I mean, it's true. Those guys, they know, and that feeling doesn't go away. When you're a true winner, you want more, and I think those guys want more, including the front office.
I hope so. I hope they get more. Anything else? Anyone want to add anything?
I just on that point, like you just being at the rink as that team as the team has started to show up, you can feel it.
Yeah.
It is palpable in that building that you can feel that there is a certain sense of urgency that like and I've said this, they did not get an honest title defense. And now I think they're pissed. And I think that should scare the bejesus out of the Dallas Stars. and Vegas, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think that is you're gonna have if they can get healthy and stay healthy, you're gonna have an angry Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar all year long. Okay.
Watch out.
Yeah, and a 50-goal Nico
Right.
in a year that was so bad. Not for him individually, obviously.
Yeah.
But him with more talent readily available, hopefully.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at the top 9 on opening night, and this is going to be something that I either write about or just put out on Twitter at some point. But you look at the opening night lineups versus Game 1 last year and game what will be Game 1 this year. This is a better hockey team.
Oh, it is.
It just is more talented.
Yep. A bunch of dudes you might want to get bobbleheads of with foco.com. Reminder to get over there. Use code DNVR10 to get 10% off your order from Foco. Get the bobbleheads or be a normal person and get a jersey or a shirt or whatever. Look, bobbleheads are normal. You're a normal person if you like bobbleheads. That's fine. I'm just weird and think they're weird. But either way, whatever you need, foco.com. Go over there, get your apparel. We are going to get out of here live from Circa's Legacy Club up at the top floor.
I did want to add one final note.
Go.
I don't want to end the show on a weird note either, but I did want to address the fact that we didn't ask Chris MacFarland about Val Nichushkin.
Yeah.
And I just wanted people to know that was an intentional choice that we agreed upon. Mm-hmm. And it's not because we want to abandon that topic of discussion altogether. I think our hope is going into camp we'll have the opportunity to talk to Val Nichushkin directly and bring that kind of coverage to you guys. So I just didn't want anyone to think that we're ignoring this topic of discussion altogether. We still want to talk to Val Nichushkin directly, and I think the wording was healthy and will be at camp.
Yeah, he's healthy. He's there. He's ready to go. The Avs have said what they're going to say about Val Nichushkin. The next time anybody talks about it will be Val Nichushkin.
Yep.
So it's the next step is up to him. So,
yep.
But yeah, we did not. I appreciate Meghan.
Yeah, getting that in there. That was important to talk about.
It was not something that we were trying to hide from.
Yep.
No.
All right. On that note, we're going to wrap this up for real from Circa in Las Vegas, their Legacy Club. If you haven't been up here, you guys got to get up here. The view is ridiculous.
This is the nicest room I've ever been in my life.
Genuinely, I feel too poor to be here.
Right. Yeah.
We appreciate all of y'all. We hope you guys are having a great weekend. We got more content coming your way on everywhere you can find us. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, the actual website that we own, that thing too.
For new pod listener Peter Budai,
Spotify, there you go.
That's
We're
adorable.
everywhere.
He's a big Spotify guy, we learned.
Yeah, keep your eye out. We do have a bunch of interviews that will be coming to YouTube of a bunch of guys in the Avs front office. So, yeah, we think it's cool content. Hopefully you do too. We will see you on the next one.